Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. Well, today we're going to take a look at part 9 of the Trick or Treat Lane display. We're almost there. This is going to be the final section complete, and then all we have to do is really assemble everything. And so what I want to do today is a little bit different. I want to show you the base on section 4 when it's complete, the way it looks without anything on it. And then I already know, and I anticipate a lot of you are going to ask, how do we run the wires? How do we do this? And instead of trying to show you that while I set up the entire thing, because there'll probably be some frustrating moments in that, it's going to be a lot more difficult than it probably needs to be. I'm going to show you how to do that today on this particular base. So we'll show you the base, show you how it looks. A couple things are still drying, but then when that's done, we will decorate it all, run all the wires, plug everything in. And then once you've seen that, you'll know that I've got to do that for every single base, all 3 of the others, and then put them where they're supposed to go and then plug everything in. So with that, let's jump off the tripod and take a look at section number 4. Okay, so this is section number 4, and it's complete as far as decoration goes, as far as painting and putting grass and everything on is done. And I'll talk about every bit of it. We'll kind of go through it step by step and show you how that all evolved and some of the things that I used to create the looks, and then some of the reasoning behind the way it looks, okay? So I know it's hard to see now, but this is the pedestal here that the haunted church is going to sit on. You can see the hole in the center for it's a C7 bulb. You can see the bulb sitting right back there. And so that will be going into this hole here, and then it'll be run underneath, and I'll show you how to do all that. And then we've got a step down onto the sidewalk. We've got some fall leaves that are still drying. And we come across the street and we go into where the Peanuts house, Trick or Treat Lane, is going to sit. You can see a little bit different type of grass. This is mostly the leftover pieces, and I try to put that where Trick or Treat Lane houses are going to sit, because I wanted to sit as flush as they will go. And so that's the difference in that, but you see where the hole is cut, where the cord will go down through, and you'll never see it. Okay, and so then we come down, we've got more leaves drying, we got some spots that are still drying out there. Hopefully those will dry. If not, I'll have to figure out something else to try to clean them off, I suppose. And then as we come over into the side exit coming out of the church into the cemetery, I wanted the cemetery to look a little more dilapidated, a little more run down. So I used a different type of grass. Everything has been glue watered. You can hear it. It's all crunchy. The sand has been glue watered down as well. Everything's in place. It's not going anywhere. So you see the sand, and I put the sand on first. I just took some white PVA glue and made a line that I drew out, put glue on it, and all the way over here to where the crypt is going to sit, and just put sand down and let it sit out and dry until it was good and dry. And then once that was done, I came back and glued everything else, put glue down everywhere else, and then spread the grass down. And you've seen me do that before, just smash it down in there. And once that dries, you scrape the residual off, and then you take the isopropyl alcohol and you break the surface tension with that. I coated it thoroughly in the isopropyl alcohol. That allows everything to run down through it. It kind of loosens everything up, all the fibers. And then when you do your glue water mixture, it allows it to go straight through and settle at the bottom and then glue everything in place. And so that was the process of which I did that. Same process that I did all of the others. And you'll see the hole, if I didn't point it out earlier, for the crypt to go sit in, and then the hole here for the haunted gate or the spooky gate to sit in. And as we come across the street, I wanted to do a pumpkin patch. And so with a pumpkin patch, this is a mixture of the and I don't know what the moss is called, but you get it at Michael's or Hobby Lobby or at Joann's, any of the craft stores. It's the curly gray looking moss. And basically I took that, I took some of this type of moss and some of this type of moss, crunched them all up, and then cut that those little gray fibers, you can kind of see them in there, Cut those up with scissors, pretty small. Mixed all of that together, and then did the same concept. Put the glue down, and then stacked that on real thick, and then smashed it down, and then scraped it off after it was dry, and then not hot, but glue water mixture or isopropyl alcohol over top of it, and it's real crunchy. It's not going anywhere. And then you can see the hole there that's going to be used for the LED light that's going to be inside of the little pumpkin patch booth. Okay, and then because there's sand here, and I just wanted to kind of make it evident that people are coming in and out of here all day long to get pumpkins, and so I put a little sand down here. Same concept as the fall foliage. You can see this is still drying, but it's down there. Same concept. Put a little bit of the matte Mod Podge down, just like I do for the leaves, and then put some sand on it, and then a little bit of glue water mixture dripped onto that, and allow that to dry, and that's going to sit right there. It'll never come off or never flake around. So that's what the base looks like. That's and so I had a question also of how do I store these things. This is exactly the way I store it. So I take everything off, there's nothing on this base that's not glued down. You could pick it up and turn it over and do anything you want to it, as long as you handle it, halfway decent. It's not going to mess it up. And then I just set them up in a closet, in our walk-in closet in our spare room, and just kind of set them against the wall and lean them against each other. And all four of them, they're only an inch thick. In some cases, the biggest part, they're 2 inches thick. So you're talking, less than a foot, 8 inches or so sticking out from the wall, and just kind of leaned up in a corner. So they store pretty easily. You could store these under your bed. You could store them in the garage. You could store them a whole number of places. And that's why I like doing the modular designs, because one, they fit together. If you design it that way, they fit together pretty seamlessly, and they store easily. This is a lot easier than storing a 4x4 sheet of big, heavy, thick foam somewhere. That's a pretty big piece to store. But if I can take 4 2-foot sections, it breaks down just like this, and it's a lot easier to store that. So hopefully that gives you a better idea of what section 4 is looking like. It's not completely done. We've still got a little bit more details to put on it. I may do something along the sidewalk line here with the graveyard. I haven't made up my mind on any of that stuff yet. But maybe still a little bit more to come on this one. So with that, let's get back on the tripod. Let me reposition the camera, and we're going to talk about how we decorate this. Okay, so the first thing I want to start with is kind of showing you the bottom of the display base again, and how everything is tunneled. Now this display base is going to have all the wires coming out this side closest to you. You can see where the wires are going to actually come out. And if we flip this whole thing over, you can kind of see how everything is cut underneath to allow us to tunnel everything through to the very, very end, okay? And so this is why it's going to be somewhat frustrating and trying to get all these things set up. So I'm gonna have to use half of the counter in the kitchen over top of the sink to run some cables. And then I think what I'm gonna have to do is very carefully pick this up after everything is done and transport it into the area where it's going to be displayed. That's going to be the frustrating part. There may be a better way to do it. There may be a different way to do it. I'll experiment as I get closer, but that's probably what I envision happening. Okay, before we actually start running the wires and I show you that, I want to introduce you to a couple things. Now I'm going to do a tutorial on street lights again, with a new product that I found, a new way to make them work, and how I was able to create it, not on this specific platform, because there are no street lights. They're gate lights, and these things are lighted, so I didn't feel the need to put street lights as well. But on the other platforms, 2 of the other platforms, Trick or Treat Lane proper has got street lights, and so I found a new way to do that, and I want to share that with you. It's the same concept as this though, so let me kind of unravel And so I use, and you guys have heard me talk about it before on the channel, Evan Designs. That is a local, I say local, it's in Boulder, Colorado, I think, or somewhere in Colorado. A shop that specializes in LED lights and cabling for hobbies. And so I found them online. They're reasonably priced. I love their customer service, and so I go with them almost every single time. Well, it has some previous LED lights, and so I wanted to try one in this, and it's called the Breathing Green LED light. So this originally had, I think, a breathing green LED light in it. I'd had one laying around, and so I pulled the string of fairy lights out because they were battery operated and there's nowhere to hide a battery pack on here. So I soldered together, and you guys have seen me solder before, I soldered together the LED. So this is the green LED that's up in there. I've got some of the cushion material, I don't remember exactly what it's called. It'll come to me in a minute. It's the cotton looking material that I've put up in there, the batting that's put up in there. You can kind of see it sticking through there to kind of amplify the glow. And so the LED is put up in there, and then there's a piece of box tape to secure it over the bottom. And so the LED is then come out, and red to red, black to black, I soldered it in place, put a little tape around it. I've got a pretty lengthy piece of cord, but what I want to show you most of all is this little contraption here. This is a little connector that I found that they sell that is just so incredibly cool. I think it's 5 millimeters across, and so it'll fit through just about any hole that you would put in styrofoam. And what this does is on the other side, and I'll show you that in a moment, is another contraption like this that this fits into, but it holds 3 or 5 of these. So you can make individual strings of these, run them through your cable, plug them into one plug, and get 5 or 3 accessories depending on what you buy. I bought a 5, I bought a 3, I just ordered three more of the 3 type series. That should be here relatively soon. And I'll do a tutorial and show you how to build these, but they're pretty simple, but they're very, very effective. And so the way that is a green breathing LED light in the crypt, I think it's a really cool effect. We have got in the pumpkin patch, I did the same thing. So you can kind of see I've kind of wrapped the cord around things so it just kind of stays wound up. But the same concept is here, except here I've got a orange light. You can kind of, it's just taped to the inside up there with some black electrical tape. You can see the batting material in there to help diffuse the glow. And then at the end of the day, it is set up the exact same way with one of these little clips, one of these little connectors. And then you just connect the other side. When it's all run through, you connect the other side to the 3 or the 5, I call them pigtails, is what we call the wiring that I used to work on. And you just plug those in. That goes into your power source, which goes into one of these plugs from Department 56, 3 volts, and it runs all of your accessories. So to me, this is pretty simple and very economical. These don't cost much at all. So let me show you then, move some of this stuff around and show you how we're going to start running wires. Okay, so from here, I know the wires come out on this side. So I'm going to start with the farthest away piece and then run it through and place it. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to bring the side of this off of the board for just a minute. Let me turn the camera so you can kind of see. Just have to kind of bear with me. This cord is going to go through the hole that we made. It goes straight through, no issues at all. We're going to continue to pull all the way through until we get our house, our accessory, exactly where we want it, which is right about there. Okay, so now our accessory is run. So now, and I know this is going to be somewhat difficult to see. Let me maybe pan the camera up a little bit. Okay, so I'm holding this in place, and you can see how that's going to start to go into the tunnel there. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to get some tape. Now I'll use better tape when I'm doing this permanently, but I'm going to put some tape where I can reach it really quickly. And I'm gonna do probably, I don't know, 3 or 4 pieces on this wire. You can use floral pins for this or what have you, but I'm going to use these. So I've got my house held. I've got a piece of tape in my hand, and I'm just going to put a piece of tape right here. And hopefully you can see how I'm doing that. Put this up in here and just tape it to the best of my ability, right like that. Now this tape is not gonna hold for long, but it's gonna hold enough. I'm gonna put another piece of tape here, run this through. This is a lot easier to do with help. That's where I have to solicit the help of my wife on build day. Okay, same thing here. Kind of put it up in there, and you'll do all your cords like this or very similar to this. Okay, so that is done. And that cord is now run. And so you can see how it just kind of sits. Well, you can't see it because I put the board down. But if you were to see, you would see how it runs right out of this slot and right into the place. Now this one's gonna be the closest one, so that'll be the one that we do the last, both of these. So now we've gotta do the haunted, well, I'm gonna do the gate first. So now what I want to show you is this is the wired connector. This is a type of connector. It's a 3-way. Okay, and so what I did is I took this 3-way connector, which is right here. So this is the other piece of this that plugs into those, and you can see this is a 3-way connector, so it's got 3 accessory ports in it. Right, so I can plug 3 accessories into this one pigtail. Now I soldered this, so this comes out here, right? And you plug it in, and then it comes with all of these pieces except this. This is the 2.5 millimeter connector that I bought off of Amazon, and I just soldered it to the 2.5 millimeter connector because it's the same size as these. All right, and so when I plug this in now, this is now hot, and so I can take my, I don't know which one this is, but it doesn't really matter. I go red to red, black to black, and that's the crypt. So you can see the crypt is now breathing. And then I take the one that I didn't plug in just now, and I do the same thing here. And I go red to red, black to black on this one. And now you can see the side window maybe of the pumpkin patch. You'll be able to see them all here in a minute when we move. But that is the three-way connector, and that is how that works to power everything. Okay, so with that, let's move it around a little bit, plug everything in so you can see the lights come on, and we'll be right back. Okay, so I know it's kind of hard to see the lights. We'll kind of come through and see the lights when it's all completely decorated. So what we're gonna do now is kind of finalize some decorating of this, just like I would do it once it was set up in its proper place. And that is start to break out some of the accessories and things that would kind of finish the look. So I've got a few things. First things that I'm going to use are fencing. So this is the spooky wrought iron fence. You guys have probably seen this numerous times, but this kind of helps complete the look of the cemetery. So I know it goes over here. I'm using this rock wall. You guys have seen this before too. It's the fall type with a little vines on it that are orange. I'm going to start putting those in place. Now this is very dry and I haven't placed these before, so it may take a little bit to kind of coax them into place. You just kind of have to crunch them down where you want them to sit. So something like that. With the fence here, same thing. We'll put a piece of fence on this side and get it real close to the sidewalk and just crunch it down in there to where it stands the way we want it to stand. Same thing over here. Get it as close to this as we can. Okay, something about like that should work. Okay, so now we've got the graveyard fence up. All right, and so now we've got to start some additional decorating, right? So you know we like accessories around, so I've got a few of those. I've got a couple things I want to show you. I've got a whole little container full of Department 56 and Lemax tombstones, right? So we're gonna set this down over here and start pulling some tombstones out and just kind of crunching them down into place. You have also seen these imposing monuments from Department 56. These are going to look great in this area here, so we can just kind of crunch them down into place. I've got a big tub of pumpkins with the little leaves. These leaves came from a model railroad, the pumpkin patch that I found online. I'm not going to use those in this one here. And these pumpkins, these are, I think it's called putka pods or something like that. You can find them online. It's like potpourri, and just kind of sprinkle them around. Then we need people. Okay, so we'll have some trick-or-treaters walking down this street. We've got pumpkin patch themed pieces that will go well into a pumpkin patch, so we can just start spreading these folks around. And so there it is starting to look more detailed the way we want it to look. Now we need some trees. Okay, something like that. So that's how I would decorate one section, and then multiply that by, the others. And this is a pretty small section, not a lot of accessories, only 2 houses that plug in. Got a couple of accessories that plug in. But now let's jump off the tripod and take a look and see what it looks like. Okay, a little bit different view. As you can see it now fully assembled and what it looks like. So as we get closer, now obviously you would see another trick-or-treat lane house road and display down that way, but you can kind of see the feeling of walking down the road and what that looks like. And then as we come over to the church side, you can kind of see the church sitting there on the steps. It's a beautiful church. I love the way it's lit up. You come down into the graveyard. You can see the gate lit up there. You can see the tomb that kind of breathes the green that we were talking about. So that's a good effect coming out of that tomb. You've got the monuments in the back, which just add so much flavor and realism to the display. You can see the other tombstones there. And then the trees in the back just add so much to it. And I like the look of coming out of the steps there, down into the worn old pathway into the cemetery. And clearly the cemetery has not been as well taken care of as it could have been. And so that's part of the storytelling of this display. You have to tell the story without speaking. And so hopefully the visuals kind of echo that. And then as we come over to the trick-or-treat side of the lane, now obviously all those cords will be down below the table that it sits on, so you won't see any of that. You've got the, and we're missing some bushes and some other things that'll obviously be decorated there, but you can see, I love the peanut house. This is such a nice display, just very nostalgic. And then as we come down into the pumpkin patch, you can kind of see then the light inside of the pumpkin patch. That's going to look really nice at night. You can see the way the grounds look and the way the grass and everything works together. You can see the gravel on the side of the road there. Again, that helps to tell that story without speaking. It looks so natural that it's now believable as part of the story that you're trying to express through your design. And so that to me works pretty well. You got the guy lugging the big pumpkin, taking it home, getting ready to carve that bad boy up. You've got other folks that are, back in the back picking their pumpkins. He's got, Frankenstein there, whoever that is, got 3 of them. And then you've got a little girl dressed up and trying to reach down and grab a pretty good one. All of this fits, right? So it all helps to tell that same story that you're trying to tell. All right, so this is the end of this display. This is section 4. And so this is, I think, a perfect way to kind of end this little piece of street. You're coming out of a trick-or-treat lane. On the other side over here, you've got the town square just behind it. And then you've got 2 boards full of trick-or-treat lane houses. So as you're ending the trick-or-treat lane neighborhood, you're visiting an old church and then an old graveyard and a nice little pumpkin patch they set up in town. And that brings us to the end of the display here, which allows us then to bring it out more if we need to. And remember, on the other side, you don't see it yet, but over here will be the town square, and it also has the road going this way that has no termination point over here. So we've got 2 areas side by side that can be used to expand this in the future. So for example, next year when the Trick or Treat Lane house comes out, and ultimately I end up getting it because I love the collection, I probably won't do anything because I've only got one house. And in order to expand it this way, you need enough houses to fill it, enough accessories to fill it, and something over here to go alongside the town square, which would probably be more Trick or Treat Lane houses if I were guessing. So this display, I think, will hold steady for another probably 3 to 5 years without really changing it around a whole lot. Now, as you accumulate more houses, you can be, small little vignettes of them, and knowing that at some point you're going to visually continue your story, and this is just going to be the center section now of a 6-tiered modular display sometime in the future. So that's the purpose behind building the modular displays. Okay, well, hopefully that helps to illustrate the whole process from building it to lighting it to decorating it to expounding on the expansion project that may be coming up in the next few years or so. But more importantly, I hope, and what I really want you to get out of this is the complexity that goes into all the stuff behind the scenes, the frustrating of crawling down and taping everything underneath, the things that you go through to make the display look like there's no cords at all. And you'll see this when it's completely set up with all 4 pieces. The cords are designed to come out and down in between 2 tables where all the surge protectors will be, and then they'll just simply slide together. You'll never see a cord at all. And that's the whole process behind the scenes. I wanted you to see that. A lot of work goes into making sure that there's no cords visible at all. Even on the little LEDs coming up to power the pumpkin patch or the crypt, you won't see any cord at all, nor will you see the holes where they go down through. And so that's part of it. Also is the finishing of the story. And so every display that you create, my advice to you would be to create a storyboard or a story in your mind of how you want this scene to play out. And then without speaking, you have to convey that story through props and through people and through your design. And so putting sand on the road that's coming out of an area where sand is one way of doing that. Putting the dry fall leaves down on the road is one way to do that. Putting spots and grease spots and oil stains on the road is a way of doing that. Lining your streets with fall trees is a way of doing that. So everything in your display should have a purpose to help you explain and tell your story visually when people are looking at your display. So strive to do that. I strive to do that, and I think it helps me when I'm designing and building a project. It helps me to understand the storyline that I'm trying to convey. And for those that don't know, the storyline that I'm trying to convey with the entire Trick or Treat Lane display, all 4 pieces, is the old school nostalgic feel of a much simpler time, a much safer time, neighbors who are actually friendly to one another, dogs running loose that are actually nice, and everybody dressed up and just really enjoying a nice, cool fall breeze, and getting ready for Halloween and getting ready for that time of year that is known, at least through the United States, as harvest time. And so that's what these displays are trying to tell, at least with the Trick or Treat Lane displays. That's what I always try to create. I've had people tell me, are you going to add any scary parts to your Trick or Treat Lane? I'm not real. I mean, the graveyard's pretty scary if you use your imagination, but there's nothing that is going to be scary. I mean, I could hide Pennywise. I've got 2 or 3 of the Department 56, but I could hide Pennywise in here. Would probably be the scariest thing that I would do to a place like this, because it's not designed to be that way. It's designed to be more family friendly, harvest, fall, trick or treat kind of a mood. So trust me, I can design really scary if you would like me to. I I think like that in many cases when it comes to working on projects, but not this particular one. So hopefully that helps to explain the ideas behind the why that I create, and then hopefully gives you inspiration to start telling stories in your early design process. And then that will change 100 times. You'll have a storyline, you'll get to something, you're like, oh, that would really be cool. Or through your comments, through people commenting back to me of saying, hey, have you thought about this? Or this would be cool. Or hey, how about that? That also helps me to get the mind going and changes the storyline from time to time. And I've got some really great ideas from you guys. So keep those coming. If you have comments or questions, ask those in the comments. I try to get to every single one. At least that's my attempt. I don't think I've missed one yet. Let me know if I've missed one of yours and I'll go back and try to answer it. So hey, with that, if you've liked this video, if you've liked this entire series, make sure you click the like button. And as always, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, please consider doing so. It helps the channel to grow. It is growing thanks to folks that are subscribing. And it certainly helps me and it keeps me motivated to keep pushing these videos out. So this is going to wrap up the Trick or Treat Lane series. The only thing that we've got left to video and do is I'm going to show you where I'm going to store or where I'm going to display it. And I'm going to do that as I start the setup. So I probably will just kind of put the camera on and go on and off through some of the setup. But then when it's all done, you're going to get to see it in its full built glory sitting on the display stand that it's going to remain on for the rest of the season. And then you'll see it again when we do the 2023 house tour that we always do once the house is fully decorated. So you got both of those to look forward to. So until we talk again, take care of yourselves and we'll talk again real soon.